And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. We got friends and listeners already here, 8:05 Eastern Time, live. And, of course, bright and early for me. It's 5:05 Pacific Time in the West Coast. Still dark outside, but the weather is beautiful. Good time. Amazing Ed, how you doing? I had Hawk 13666, Mike H. Looks like a newcomer here. Walter Litwico, names I don't know. Jesse James, let's go, brother. That's right. Timothy Travels. What's up, my brother? Sleepy Joe, M. Franco, Michael Freed, Paul Hackney, Cactus Show. Regulars here. John, let's do it, brother. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, good morning, people. So, yeah, another interesting day. Two things I want to note before we even talk about what we're going to talk about. There was a handle on X. His name was Eric Adams Crime Family, and he was calling everything. I have no idea who it was, but he was calling play-by-play what was going to happen almost sometimes 48 hours before. Had real good info. He just disappeared yesterday out of nowhere. And then there's another handle on X. It's like New York City bike lanes. And that handle that was the handle that was first responsible for reporting that Tom Donlan's homes were raided. And that he did that like early in the morning one morning, and no one found out till the next day at night. So no one believed it. Like I saw it, everyone was like, yeah, whatever, this guy who's New York City bike lanes, right? So, but last night, it's weird. He actually tweets like a good night story, and he says, "Good night, Eric Adams. Good night, Eric Adams. You're gonna wake up tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be a very bad day for you." So I don't know what that means. Real cryptic, but he did call the appointment of Tom Donlan. Let's see what happens today. I don't know if that means something's gonna happen, but yeah, his handle is New York City bike lanes on X. But Eric Adams' crime family disappeared. I was wondering if it's a Fed. I was wondering who the hell it is that has all this info, if it's someone in the media that has like real good sources and they just didn't want to expose themselves. I just thought those two things were real funny last night.
I just got to laugh. Tom says, Eric, park your RV in the MSG during the Trump rally and have your own roll call. I actually drove the RV through a couple of cities. The best time I had it in the RV, I drove the RV through New Orleans, and I got within about 2 blocks of Bourbon Street because it was real narrow. That was a good time. I went hung out on Bourbon Street. I was actually by myself. I flew from California to Florida, picked up one of my RVs. I have more than one, by the way. And I picked one up, and I drove it from Florida to California, and I drove through New Orleans by Bourbon Street. I hung out for a couple hours, and then I went to sleep, and then I went back. Great time. Awesome. Hassan says, what coffee beans do you use? I actually drink organic coffee. I only drink organic coffee at home. Try it. Doesn't have all the pesticides. But, yeah, let's listen. Let's get right into this topic. NYPD youth officer sexted an undercover cop posing as a 14-year-old girl. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is very near and dear to me, this program. I actually volunteered a lot of my time. I created a boxing program. I used to do a self-defense situational awareness program with the kids. Talked to them a lot about mental health. Was a mentor. I had other people in the precinct get involved, excuse me, and become mentors to these kids. I handpicked. I don't want to name her name because I know people get in trouble associating with me. But I had a female officer. She's actually now a sergeant. She was by far, I would say, the best the city has to offer when it comes to being an NYPD Explorer coordinator. She was outstanding. I mean, to this day, she has such a great relationship with these kids. This program is really important. So I find this near and dear. I still talk to a lot of these kids today. The kids, when I went to my first RV site with my RV, it was upstate New York at a place called Yogi Bear. Real famous RV park. It's like Wally's World. They got all the rides for kids. So I had all the kids come from the NYPD Explorer program with NYPD vans, and they came and I threw like a big party, and they came on the rides and stuff. It was a really great event. So these kids, I still speak to them. Some of them are in college. Some of them are cops now. Some of them went to the military. Great relationship. These are great kids.
Yeah. So this comes out last night. I mean, I think Sal Greco reported on this pretty early. A lot of people put this out early that there was a cop arrested over the weekend. We don't know exactly who arrested him, but the way the article reads, it's very vague. But the way the article reads, I'm actually assuming it was Group 52, IB Group 52 that set him up. So we've been doing a lot of bashing on internal affairs lately, but I think one thing that might have gotten missed in our bashing is that when it comes to the rank and file, when it comes to lieutenants below, and even captains and DIs now, though they get hit a lot more than they used to. But captains, DIs, when it comes to those people below, IAB is very effective at stopping forms of corruption when it relates to things of this nature, individualized thing. It's the systemic corruption that relates up to the top where they fail totally. So this cop gets a bunch of allegations that he's a little weird with the kids. Now, why he's not removed immediately from the program, I don't know. But I guess an allegation goes out that he's a little weird with these kids in the Explorer program. So an undercover officer comes up to him. She poses as a 14-year-old girl, says she wants to be part of the program. He exchanges numbers with her. And then he starts texting her nude pictures, a picture of his little wee-wee. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Right then and there, I mean, if we trace it back to the phone, trace it back to him, I say automatic termination and possibly some time in jail. This is a betrayal, man. And then if that happened, how many other times has it happened? It's disgusting.
Timothy's Travels, brother. How you doing, my brother? I want to say I love you guys. I love you too. Thank you so much. $4.99 to the podcast. Outstanding, brother. So listen, this is what I'm going to say. And what I'm going to say is probably going to piss a lot of people off. So I'm actually not surprised that this doesn't happen more often. Thank God it doesn't. This program is actually really important because it's a program that gets the opportunity to get kids off the street, and not just street kids. I mean, this is a mix of kids. There's kids, just good kids that want insight to the basics of law enforcement, or they just want to be part of a group or an organization. There's kids that range from 13, to 20 years old in this program, and they learn the basics of law enforcement. I mean, even we had a camping trip with these kids. I mean, the girl I had was awesome. Also, shout out when I was on the Lower East Side in PSA 4. Former Marine, his name is Tony. He's retired. I can give his name now. He ran the program there. He did an awesome job, too. But I could say this. I'm going to blame the leadership on the job. And some people are going to piss off and say, how do you blame the leadership? Well, for one, there's no direct supervision when it comes to this actual program. There was direct supervision in PSA 7 because I took the time and I volunteered a lot of my time to be a part of this program. And I handpicked the girl that was in charge. So I took pride in it. And I made sure I always let the cops know. I always protected the kids. Be careful around these kids, especially the girls. Some of these girls are young, and you have girls that are close to 20 years old, 17, 18, and they're built like women already. And I would tell the cops, be professional. I always protected those kids because I felt like they were my kids. But I blame the leadership. Because I experienced a lot of commanders could care less about this program. The only time they cared about the program is when it came up in Comstat. They didn't vet it. They didn't care who was running it. When this girl eventually got promoted, no one could care less who's in that program. They don't take pride into it. There's no actual direct supervision. It's part of supervision from one police plaza. But there's no actual direct supervision, and they don't care. And that's the problem. The only time they care is when it comes up in Comstat. That's the only time. And that's the problem right there. Rich Raj, $10 at a podcast says, good morning, guys. Good morning to you, Rich Raj. You've been donating every day. I want to say thank you so much. I can't be more appreciative. So, John, what do you think about that? I'm going to tell you right now, fair leadership when it comes to this program.
I mean, it's literally the model for everything that's wrong with the department. It always goes down to everything's just a numbers game. Nothing's real. Nothing's organic. Everything is fake. And it shows because you have pedophiles amongst your ranks in a youth officer program, right? And you're getting complaints about it, and you don't even know what the hell's going on because nothing really is organic. Everything's a Twitter photo. Everything's a photo op. We really don't care about the community. We really don't care about crime. We don't care about any of it. It's all bullshit. What we care about is Kaz Daughtry looks good when he's sitting at the head of the table. We care about hoisting a flag so everybody could see it, so it looks like we're World War II veterans. We care about every single other thing than what's going on. And it's the same thing with the numbers game when it comes to crime, right? Like you want to put dots on a map, and I get you want to put dots on the map, but you want to put organic dots on the map. You want your guys, and what I mean by dots on the map is, I mean that you have a problem in a certain area of crime. You want to see that there's enforcement in that same area, right? But it doesn't need to be non-organic enforcement. It needs to be people in there observing actual crime, not stopping people and writing a 250 because they were walking their dog on the sidewalk or whatever it may be. Their alarm went off by accident and you put their name on paper. It needs to be actually people who are committing crimes in that area. And that's how you'll quell the crimes. And now if there's nobody committing crimes in that area, there should be no dots on the map. So, and then we could figure out where the crime is actually happening, who's actually committing these crimes, and we could hone in and figure out what locations it's happening to eventually arrest the perpetrator. So that's what I mean when I say it's not organic. It's the same thing with every single one of these programs. They fail. They fail often because it's all about that. That's exactly 100% right. When it comes to CompStat, people care about a program. When it's not CompStat week, nobody even knows what the hell's going on. How many auxiliaries we have? How many of this we have? How many of that? Nobody knows anything. It's like, oh, okay, you don't know anything until 2 to 3 days before you got to study. And honestly, it's an embarrassment. Like I never spoke in CompStat, but I'll tell you right now, and for all the executives who consistently bash me, I would have been awesome in CompStat because I would have known everything. You know, for you to sit there, like when I would watch people sit there and study for 4 or 5 days, I would be like, you weren't paying attention. You weren't paying attention. I know all the stuff like that, but I know everything that you're thinking, and I know it all in the back of my head. I read all the 61s. I know it all. And the thing that like would bother me, like if you were on vacation, I get it. You took 2 weeks off and you're coming back and you got CompStat. I get it. You got a problem. You got to see what the hell's going on. I get it. But like you were in the command, it's the winter time, you didn't go nowhere. You should know this stuff like the back of your hand. You and you know, some things you're just not going to know. You don't need to worry about that stuff. Same thing like when you're taking a promotional exam.
Well, first of all, just to show the lack of leadership, right? Like I said, I've seen commanders could care less about this program, and this program is actually really important, right? It makes a lot of sense. This is actual creates a great bond between community and policing because it's a program that starts with the kids, and the kids get a real great insight to police work. And it was great. I even experienced. I remember this one girl. I think she was about 13, and when she joined the program, she was shocked that she could have such a good relationship with a white police officer. For her, it didn't matter. I was a lieutenant. She saw him as a police officer, and she couldn't believe it because she had such biases. Obviously, it was taught in the home, and we built such a good relationship, and she started to love the police, and she could care less about white and black anymore. And it's unfortunate what was taught in the home, but this is barriers that were broken for this community. But what did I see? I saw the commanders could care less about this program, and that's even to commanders I like. It's a major failure. I took it upon myself to volunteer because I like I said, I saw it in PSA 4. I got involved with it. I saw how great this program is, so I just continued that in PSA 7, and I had more ability as a lieutenant, more capabilities to really help out with this program. And as I said, I have a relationship with these kids today. And these kids are awesome. And they can care less until it's CompStat. Somehow there's a question. All of a sudden they get involved. But what you really have to ask is exactly what you said, John. How do they not know, right? Just think, how bad is it? How bad was it that it got to the point that they had an undercover to actually get sexted, that there wasn't so many barriers in times where they could stop this? There had to be signs. And these are kids. We're talking about kids. Kids talk. There had to be signs and so many things that are inappropriate that people overlooked and didn't pay attention to get to that point. And shame on them, right? Because think about it, John. I tell you right now, if I was one of these parents, there would be hell to pay. You send your kids, John, we were just talking about, right? Would you be willing to send your kid to a sleepover? We talk about it all the time, right? You got daughters. I have daughters. Think about it. You send your kid to a program, a camp, a sleepaway, but you send them to the police department. If anyone you would trust, it's the police department, and you send your most precious gems, you send your children, and you can't even trust them. They're sexting your daughters. This is disgusting. And it can happen with boys too. It doesn't have to be just girls. It's going to happen to boys also. But that's why I tell you right now, people have told me, oh, you never put anything personal on social media when it comes to your wife and kids. Absolutely not. You know why? I tell you why. I can care less about trolls. I don't care what anybody says to me. It doesn't bother me. I let it roll off my shoulders. But if I put something up about my daughters and someone had something inappropriate to say, now we got a problem. Now I'm going to snap. I don't care. When it comes to family, you're going to see a different side of Eric Dim. I'm sure you'd see a different side of John McCarry. When it comes to myself, it's okay. I let it roll off my shoulders. But these are your most precious gems. You send your kids and just think how many things that must have been inappropriate to get to this point that no one said, wait a minute, we got a problem. Shame on the commanding officers. Shame on the commanding officer in this particular precinct for not seeing the signs, because there's a breakdown. There's no actual leadership actually watching this program. And now you broke the relationship between the parents and the trust with the cops and the kids. It's a horrific fail.
Oh, it's disgusting, dude. It's absolutely disgusting. And yeah, I mean, that's, the part of, I mean, a lot of the reason I don't put anything about my family on social media is there's a lot of creeps out there too. You don't know what their images are going to be used for either. And I'm not like throwing them out in the world, right? Like, we're trying to protect our kids and like not and keep them as innocent as long as possible. Now, I have some pretty in-depth conversation with my children are related to things. I mean, they're 12 and 11. They're going to be 13 and 12 soon. By the time I was their age, I mean, I was taking the train, I was taking the bus. I had witnessed a lot of things that probably someone my age should not have witnessed or known. I was much more mature than probably 30-year-olds around the country by that time in my life. And so, I want to keep them. I want them to be street smart, but I also want to keep them away from the world. Throwing people out on the internet. I mean, throwing your thoughts on the internet, you could see how that leads, right? You could see what happens out there, right? So I'm not sacrificing my children out there too, and my family to creeps like this. So someone asked, how did this happen with the psych? So I'm going to say, one, the psych isn't perfect. You could get a creep or some sicko to beat that psych. But the thing I think that we continuously have been seeing in the New York City Police Department is, and I want you to reflect back, we did a podcast that was called The Analysis of NYPD's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And we listened to a podcast, and the former Deputy Commissioner of Equity Inclusion, Tanya Meisenholder, spoke about. Her husband's actually works for BMS. He's a sergeant. I wonder if he got his religious exemption approved. I bet he did. But that's a note for another day. But on the
John, you don't think he got a booster, John?
I don't think so. I think his religion was more religious than mine. I think his beliefs were holier than mine. For some reason, I just have that feeling. We don't know Tanya. So Tanya Meisenholder does this podcast, and she does this podcast with this British guy, former cop. Forget the name of the podcast. Doesn't matter. But we broke the whole thing down. Our episode is called An Analysis of the NYPD's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. And we basically just did a watch party on that episode. And one of the things she talked about is they were honing in on diversity. They were honing in on diversity. Diversity. And he's basically like, what have you done to make the NYPD more diverse? And she said, well, for example, minority males, black and brown males, have a hard time passing the psych exam. And then she caught herself and stopped short of saying that they dumbed down the psych exam, but which they did, because she completely alluded to it. right? And now we're seeing a lot of different mental episodes with young officers on the job. Now, he's 14 years on the job. I mean, he probably came in after that $25,000 class. It was the beginning, the lowering of standards had already happened. But it's not to the level it's at now. But that psych exam has been dumbed down. Listen to that episode. Listen to what she says. And they've done it in the name of diversity, equity, inclusion. And the huge fail on that is that and people never grasp this. They just go, when we knock diversity, equity, inclusion, you guys are racist. You guys don't like black and brown people or minorities. And it's like, come on, dude. It's like, because at the bottom line, you dumb down that psych exam. You dumb that psych exam down for everybody. You get maniacs from every race, creed, color, religion, gender. It doesn't matter. You're just dumbing it down. You're lowering standards across the board to have, again, something that should be organic be just fake, just be a numbers game. It always goes back to the numbers game. It always goes back there. So that's how this guy gets through the psych.
Well, I agree, but I think it's more than that. So I think the problem is, we talk about it all the time, right? It's the emasculation of the police department. Where are the other strong men and women with masculine traits to put this kid in check? And I'm saying it right now. It would happen to me. There were some girls I had in this program. They were 15, 16, and they were, let's be honest, they looked older. They were already built like women. They already had curves and they had bodies. And I would see some of the cops sometimes, kind of look at them and make jokes. And I would tell them, get the effing away from my kids. But that's what it takes. Someone to check them, to have that reality kick in. These are kids. Stop looking at them. Don't sexualize them. These are kids. Don't look at them like that. And I would only allow people in the program to take part in things that I trusted. And I'm telling you right now, the girl that I had in charge was awesome. I trusted her. She was so good with these kids. She wasn't their friend. She was their parent. She was their mentor. She was a true leader. She would protect these kids. At the same token, but where are the other strong men in the precinct to say, "Yo, what are you doing? Why are you looking at that kid like this? Stop it." First of all, even if the kid was 20 years old, right? They're still in that program, and you still have that sense of power over them, right? Because of that dynamics, right? They're part of the program. You're in a position of leadership. This whole thing is terrible. I honestly blame leadership and accountability. There's no better mechanism. We have internal affairs, but there's no better mechanism than us policing each other. And that's why I'm saying this whole ideology of being nice, this nice guy syndrome, creates problems. Where is the commanding officer? Shame on you to make sure that this program has leadership. I guarantee this kid was probably just thrown in there. I find it hard to believe he was actually vetted. And if people will always seep through the cracks, even when times were good and there were higher standards. But it's if the majority of men and women in the job are good and they have strong principles, someone like this would not fester. But because we have people now that are weak and afraid to tell each other things and check each other, that's why we have a problem. I would always tell people, get away from my kids. If I saw someone getting a little too, joking around too much, get away. I would do that with some of my female cops. Dude, get away. And that's what it comes down to. It takes solid men and women, honestly, to just use your observations of care. That's why I say, John, the fact that it got to this point, there had to be signs there that people overlooked. I find it hard to believe that it just happened overnight.
Oh, no, you're 100% right, dude. We don't police each other. So, and I don't even think anyone went as far to go home to tell their mom to go file the report for them. Oh, mommy, could you come to the 5-0 with me and file a report? Because I think this guy's a creep, so we didn't even get that level of it, So I agree with you. Yeah. Cops aren't holding each other accountable. They're not holding the community accountable. They're not holding each other accountable. They're not holding their supervision accountable, and like that, you talk about that a lot, like lead them from behind. And for those of you that haven't read Extreme Ownership, I think they're good books, like especially if you are in leadership. But I don't even think it matters if you're in leadership. I think if you're a cop, you need to read that book too. I think if you're in any type of enforcement, if you're in any job, and in every job it matters, but it matters more in these type of jobs where you're really dealing with life, death, tragedy. You're dealing with horrific circumstances. You really need to. Integrity is a shitty thing to have, man. Because you're going to get into a lot of things about it. Like it's going to bring you in twists and turns, and you're going to be in scenarios that you don't want to be in, but you have to be there. Right. So it's called Extreme Ownership, Lola buddy. Jocko Willink. He also did The Dichotomy of Leadership, was the second book. And then there was a third book after that. But yeah, I think it's really important that people start to understand, like, lead from behind too. Because I'll tell you right now, especially being like when you're a young supervisor, you're not such a great leader at that point. I mean, what makes you good is the people around you. What makes you a strong leader at that point is the people leading you from behind, right? Your cops telling you, Sarge, watch out for this kid. Sarge, I don't think that's the right idea. Hey, I don't know if you know, but I heard this about this dude. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe he's not the best pick for this program. Or watch that guy, he doesn't look right. Or, yo, I just had a confrontation with this dude, and this is what I seen, and I told him this. And, like, so there's an art to leading all around, right? And holding our supervisors accountable as well. Most notably in this instance, the people who are running this program. Like, hey, maybe there was something here where it was like, did these supervisors know? Were these supervisors told prior that, hey, this dude's not right? I don't know. I don't like what he's doing. I see he's a little too flirty with these kids. I'm going to sit here and say, absolutely, that happened, because there was a Daily News article written last night at 5 p.m. Comes out by John Anise. And you're going to hear what it is, that there were complaints made. And that's why there was an undercover officer sent at him to see what he would do, which is known as an integrity test. And he failed.
Again, I hope, hopefully in life, right, something bad turns into something good. So I hope that something good comes out of this. And the good that should come out of this, because this is horrific. There needs to be a complete overhaul with this program. In this program, there is no direct leadership. That's the problem. And the commanders, shame on them. They don't care about this program. They don't care. And I'm going to say it again. They don't care until it's Comstat. They don't pay attention. They don't care who gets assigned to the program. For some commands, they're lucky they get someone that's good. And for some commands, they just get anybody just to fill a spot. And that's the problem. There's no actual leadership. So I do blame the commanding officer. Absolutely. Do I blame the commanding officer? Should he know that this kid is capable of this? No. But he should know if there's things that are going on that don't look right, because he has direct supervision. So you're right. I always say that, right? In leadership, there's an art to managing the people below you, but there's also an art to managing the people above you, to say, hey, just as we spoke about the whole tints thing, right? To protect your boss. Say, hey, boss, you need to take a look at this. Just as you said, John, this doesn't look right. Right? You know that, and that doesn't mean you have to spell it out. A good commander would say, hey, thank you. Right? You don't want to spell it out for them to put them in a vulnerable spot themselves, but say, hey, you know what? We need to take action. Something doesn't look right here. But there's no direct supervision to this program. It's overseen by the actual Explorer unit at One Police Plaza. As I said, I oversaw it because I took pride. I volunteered my time, and I love kids. But other than that, most of the commanders, shame on them. They could care less. I blame them. I really do. I don't blame them for him sexting, getting to that point, but I blame them for not actually taking pride into this program. Just as you said, John, you said it earlier in the episode. Oh, how many auxiliaries you got? They could care less about these programs. That's the problem. We need supervision. We need commanders that care. A commander should know everything that's going on in a precinct. Not in detail, but you should see the signs, because you have accountability. I say to the NYPD right now, you need an overhaul. You need direct supervision, especially when you're dealing with kids. How do we not have direct supervision? We have young girls there. Not only that, forget about Forget about the cops. We also had to watch. I used to always tell my cop, she was great. Make sure you watch the kids amongst each other, right? Because these kids have to be supervised. We have to make sure that they're not sexualizing each other. Listen, what they do on their own time, we're not responsible for. But when they're at a police department facility or taking part in a police function, you have to watch the kids with each other also. So you need the right people there. That's really what it comes down to. You need the right people. You need the right people on the job that police each other. You need people that are not afraid to say, hey, stop what you're doing. And when you do that, you're actually helping other people, right? John, if you tell me, if I do something wrong and you don't tell me, how are you helping me? If you tell me like, hey, Eric, don't do this. Oh, don't do that. You're helping me. You're doing the right thing. It's almost like the person that has a booger in their nose and no one tells them. And then the entire day they got a booger in their nose and no one had the guts to actually tell them. And I would want someone to tell me, and that's really the problem. We need people that are strong, not nice, but strong and good.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was in the sergeant locker room, coming in or leaving, one or the other, and like two sergeants or sergeant lieutenants sitting there complaining about somebody. They did this. You believe they did this? And then they show up, and then they say to me this. And I'm like, okay. And then what happened? Nothing. And I'm like, all right, so you didn't tell them what they did wrong? And they're like, no. And I'm like, call them in here right now. Tell them to come in here. Call them in here right now. I'm like, how do you know that they pissed you off and that they did the wrong thing? They might think they did the right thing. You didn't tell them, And so like that's it. It's so important, dude. It's so important. John Magnani says, haha, you're spot on. No CO gives a flying F about the youth officers. It's an empty suit spot where they're babysitters in uniform. So, John, is it an empty suit spot? Maybe. I think most of the cops are going to say that. But if you look at Twitter, it's not going to tell you it's an empty suit spot. If you look at Twitter when it relates to the auxiliary program, it's not going to look like an empty suit spot, right? It's going to be all of this virtue signaling. It's going to be all this stuff about how great this program is, how important this program is. If it is an empty suit spot, I say scrap the program totally and get the kids out of the precinct, right? If it's not, if it's important, then we should be vetting who's in there. It shouldn't be the guy who doesn't want to make arrests. It shouldn't be the guy who knows somebody, Kaz wants to look out for him or Madry wants to look out for him. It shouldn't be those people. It should be someone that's actually cares about the community, somebody with integrity, someone that has possibly dealt with youth prior. Maybe they were a teacher prior, things of this nature, and they know how to deal with children, somebody who's a parent. It should be somebody like that. It's funny. It's written into the patrol guide to keep women around children. Make sure you have a youth off, you have a woman like sitting with the juveniles, and it's for a reason because things are weird. Like I don't see that it is an empty suit spot. I see that it's a virtue signaling spot that no one cares about. That's what it is. So if we don't care about the program, scrap it. If we're not paying attention to the program, scrap it. If it's more of an issue than we have time to do, let's get rid of it, right? Should this be going on? Should this program be happening in Midtown North while violent crimes up 67%? I don't think so. I don't think it should be happening. So it's a fair point. But nobody cares about it. But if you look at Twitter, you look at Instagram, you're not going to see that it's an empty suit spot and people. It's going to be all virtue signaling. Look what we do with the community. Look, we're having this in conjunction with community affairs. Same thing with the community affairs program. It's the same exact thing. Community affairs gets more of a light, right? Because those are the CO's guys, because they're actually interacting with the community leaders, keeping them off the commanding officer's back, keeping them in good graces of the politically appointed and the elected, right? Because that's who votes in the politicians. So that gets more light, but they don't care about that program either, So it's like the whole thing's a joke. The whole thing's a joke.
I think it's a shame. I think you're right. It's all or none, and I think it's sad that there's no accountability, no actually direct leadership, and the commanding officers could care less. And now these kids suffer because I'm saying the same thing as you. If we can't get people in there that are actually responsible and care about these kids, then we should scrap it. And who suffers from that? The kids. Because there's a lot of kids in this program, they have no other outlet. They have nowhere to go. Some of them, and this is not all kids, but some of them is particularly in the South Bronx. That's the poorest congressional district in the entire country. Most of these kids, they didn't have any money. We used to do fundraisers. Thank you to the cops in PSA 7 that would donate. We would assign a kid to a cop, and they would donate from their own money so we could get these kids uniforms, so these kids could take part in camping events. They would go on trips, and they would do a lot of fundraisers. So it's really important for some of these kids who have nowhere to go. Some of them came from broken homes, not all of them, but some of them, came from some real dire situations. And this was a great outlet. But the commanding officers, and I say it right now, shame on them. I never met one commanding officer that could care less about this program. And I don't care, even the ones I like, I'm telling them the truth. Because if I don't tell the truth, shame on me. They could care less until it was Comstat. And you're 100% right, John. They made sure that they were in pictures. There was a lot of virtual signaling on Twitter. And if I ask those commanders what's the name of some of those kids, they have no idea. I don't even think they knew the name of the cop or who was assigned to it. So that's the problem. I blame the commanding officer. This happened to 7-5 precinct. Shame on the 7-5 precinct commanding officer. There had to be things that happened that caught his attention, and he overlooked it, or she overlooked it, whoever's in charge of that precinct. Again, small unit leadership breakdown. Everyone, you learn that in extreme ownership, dichotomy of leadership. Everyone has to be accountable on every level. If you're the commanding officer, I'm telling you right now, if anyone's on the job, if you're active, and you're a friend and listen to this podcast, if you become a commander in a precinct, you have this program, you have to make sure that you're involved and you know what's going on. It doesn't mean you have to watch, but you have the right people in there, and there's direct leadership, because this program could be amazing. And I met a lot of great parents. I'm still part of a WhatsApp chat with the auxiliary, Explorer kids, the Explorer coordinators, and their parents. And we built a relationship with the parents, because the parents are very important. Get them involved. And we helped a lot of families bring the kids together with the families. But shame on the commanders. They could care less. I could care less what they think of me for saying it. It's their fault. They're responsible. They're responsible that someone like this got to that point, that we had to get internal affairs involved to the point that he's actually sexting. And how many things probably probably happened that didn't even get uncovered in this? I'm sure this wasn't his first time. And that's the problem. Leadership.
So let's get into the article a little bit. It's like I said, it comes out from John Anise, New York Daily News. An NYPD officer working with the department's Youth Explorers police program is accused of trying to strike up a sexual conversation with an undercover officer he thought was a 14-year-old girl. Travis D'Souza, 35, a 13-year NYPD veteran assigned to the Brooklyn 75th Precinct, was busted Friday on charges of attempted disseminating indecent materials to minors and attempted child endangerment. D'Souza's behavior working with the Police Explorers program for young people between 14 and 20 interested in law enforcement had sparked concerns. So authorities sent a young-looking undercover officer to approach him in person. She identified herself as a 14-year-old girl and expressed interest in the program, according to the sources in the complaint. She gave him her contact info, and last Wednesday, while she was in the 75th Precinct Station House in East New York, he texted her descriptions of sexual acts, according to the complaint. He also sent her a photo of what appeared to be an aroused penis covered in clothing, the complaint says. NYPD records shows D'Souza completed a rape is rape training session as part of his job last month, just a month prior to his alleged inappropriate conduct. He also had completed a sexual harassment training in April, and in July completed a training session on assisting survivors of sexual-based violence. D'Souza was arraigned in Brooklyn Criminal Court on Friday and was released without bail until his next court appearance in January. He's been suspended without pay, a police spokesman said. His lawyer did not return a message seeking comment on Monday.
Well, listen, don't get me wrong. He needs to go. He needs to be terminated from the job. But I still say that I blame the leadership on this job that it got to this point. This is absolutely disgusting. And because it's failed leadership, we actually have a breakdown now between cops and community. I mean, these are our most trusted gems. These are our kids. Tom Anthony says, I hope you're trolling, brother. I don't know. But I want to read this comment you wrote here. Let me see if I can find it. Wouldn't be surprised if a citizen sent their kid in knowing they would attract the cops sexually. $ 4 times. I don't believe that. You know what? I'm there's no amount of money that's worth me using weaponizing and using my daughter to try to make money. And there's not ability on parenting has nothing to do with economics. I mean, we see plenty of parents that are poor and they're awesome dads and awesome mothers. So I got to push back on that, brother. I don't see anybody doing that. Really. There's no amount of money worth me putting my daughter or son in that kind of position. That's absolutely, I don't agree with that. John,
well, I would hope so, but I mean, I also wouldn't send my children to go sleep over Michael Jackson's house or Puff Daddy's house either. And there are a lot of parents that would do that, and so I think that's kind of what he's alluding to, Tom. But somebody said, Joe Roscoe says it's entrapment. I honestly don't think it's entrapment, dude. You're sending a young looking girl to flirt with a man. I mean, and you bite. It's not entrapment. You're a scout. You're a scout. You're taking pictures of yourself aroused and sending it to a 14-year-old girl. Why are you even texting with a 14-year-old girl at all? Why are you texting with her at all? It's completely inappropriate. It's completely, utterly inappropriate. If there is a need for a text for whatever, some type of professional need, hey, we're coming in at this time. This is the time we're meeting today. Whatever those texts be, they should be completely appropriate and professional the entire time, the entire conversation. And if at any point a young girl makes that conversation become inappropriate, it should be corrected immediately via the text. Like, hey, don't talk to me like that, or you won't be in this program ever again. So I think when we look at, when we're looking at this, obviously there was a problem. Obviously there were complaints made. Now there's things that Group 52 does, like the Undercover group, that I think are bullshit. I know someone that was in trouble, and he was in trouble for some stupid nonsense on the job, but the job started targeting him. Because they just didn't like him, because they didn't like that he made headlines over doing something dumb, right? It wasn't fire-worthy or anything like that. It was just dumb. It made headlines. It got some bad reviews. And what happened was he was sent to a Brooklyn North command, and then 2 undercovers in front of him start arguing as he's walking out of a job. He does the right thing, breaks up the argument, sends them on their way, and leaves. Group 52 gives him charges. You know what they give him charges for? He failed. It was an integrity test. He failed to take a DIR. That's bull crap. That's entrapment. Not this. We're saying, is it entrapment when someone tells me you're stealing money? You're stealing money from car stops, and I send 2 undercovers with a ton of money drive around the precinct until you pull them over, and we leave money in the cup holder, and you take it. Is that entrapment? Absolutely not. You're a scout. There shouldn't be there shouldn't be anything that leads you to commit that crime. Like, you still have free will in that situation. There's not one or the other. There should be no reason to take that money. There should be no reason to sext with this kid.
You know what, John? But shame on this job, because on this job, they don't use common sense and they don't use preemptive strikes. What they do is everything's a knee-jerk reaction. I can put my last dollar on it right now that every commander every commander citywide is scrambling right now, trying to figure out who's actually their exporter coordinator. And now they're actually like, oh, we got to make sure we have the right person in place. They're actually trying to figure out how to have supervision. They're actually looking back at the pictures. Now they're actually going to care. This is going to be this is going to be a phenomenon and a trend that will go on for maybe a couple of weeks, and then they'll forget about it and they'll go back to old business. But it's going to be a knee-jerk reaction, and I guarantee there's a couple of commanders right now scrambling. Like, they don't even know who their explorer coordinator is. Probably some of the commanders don't even know what this program is. I would put my last dollar on it. I'm telling you right now. They don't even know what it is. They took pictures with them. It's on their Twitter, but they have no idea what it is. They don't even know who's assigned to it. So I just kind of want to reflect, right? We've had Edwin Raymond on this podcast, who's a huge advocate of not really measuring arrest. So this is a cop that shouldn't.
You're breaking up bad. You're breaking up bad, dude.
Sorry.
All right, you're back. You're back.
Okay. But I had I don't know if I mentioned. So we talked about Edwin Raymond, quotas and stuff like that. So this is a case where I think it's a cop that shouldn't be out there making arrests. So I remember that awesome female cop I'm referring to. There was one commander in particular decided that she had to go out and make arrest. So they would take her out of the program twice a week to go out and make arrest. Now, to me, that's absolutely stupid. And so for those 2 days, those kids were either they couldn't come to the precinct because there was no one there to supervise them, or there was just another cop that was thrown in there to kind of babysit them. So that's a major failure. Why this cop has to go out and make arrests just to get it on paper when she's not even part of the crime fighting strategy because she's out there doing this program? That's stupid. That's what I'm talking about. When it comes to cops like that, that's not someone should be measured by their arrestability. They should really take pride in that program. That's why I'm with you, John. You're 100% right. It should be all or none when it comes to that program. Sorry for the glitches with my stalling. I apologize. It's kind of rough sometimes, but life on the road. I gotta say, life on the road is amazing. If anybody ever wants life on the road, I'll tell you all about how to get an address, how to get mail, how to live by RV. It's awesome. Just contact me anytime.
Yeah. So, the other thing people I think that people don't understand about this case is that when the Daily News talks about, oh, he took the rape is rape training or he took the sexual harassment training, it's an absolute joke. So like we've said before, the training in the NYPD is completely non-existent. The NYPD has went to an internet-based training, and basically what you have to do is you go on a computer and you watch a stupid video for like 5 minutes about something, and you do a 5 question multiple choice exam, and then you're trained, and it goes into your list of certifications. I don't think that we could train anyone away from being a pedophile. So, I don't think that training matters so much. But I think when you look at all the other things, you have to look at those trainings. Because I think they often tout themselves as the most trained officers in the world. And I'm going to say that it's the exact opposite. They're probably the least trained officers in the world. With the thing with the NYPD that's unique is that the volume of jobs you will get on job training like you will never get anywhere else in the world, right? You spend the New Year's Eve out, or you're on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue and just in the middle of a day, you've interacted with thousands and thousands of people in that one day. You've solved more problems than most people solve in their entire life in an 8-hour period. So, I think that's something the NYPD could focus on, is like the training could get better. You're never going to stop this. The only way you're going to stop this is through leadership, is through caring about that program. But I'll tell you right now, if I was a commanding officer, I wouldn't give a shit about this program either, because my main job is to provide public safety. We're not in this. This shouldn't be a program run through the precinct. It just shouldn't be. If it's going to be, it should be made up of civilians, and they could interact, and maybe once a week or twice a week, you could get somebody to work with them or talk to them or take them out or bring them to events. But this is not a thing that should be run by uniform members at all in any stretch of the imagination. We're like completely going away from the core mission of policing. And we see that as time goes on, the NYPD just moves further and further and further away from the core mission of policing, while they want to pretend like they're still happening. So they're so focused on the core mission while not really doing it, and virtue signaling everywhere. And they're losing track of programs like this. And then things like this happen because no one's really paying attention. No one sees what's going on. It's the same thing with like the Community Affairs Bureau, right? Like, just get them out of the command. Just get you want to play games, you want to have kids go, bring them to the community centers and do that. It shouldn't be cops. Cops are there for a different reason. Do you need cops in certain admin positions? Yes, you do. Do you need cops to do certain functions in the police department? Yes, you do. But you don't need them around kids. You don't need them supervising kids at all. Shouldn't be, never should be. There's no reason for it. It just leads to things like this. And you know what? And like, again, if you're a commanding officer, how concerned are you going to be about this program? You're not. You don't even have time to deal with it. There's probably 7 other programs that are like the same thing. The only one that comes to mind is the auxiliary program, which I think is a vital program. And if you were smart, you would utilize them. But I think they're very underutilized. I think that program, I think the auxiliaries are very underutilized. I think it's for their own safety. But, I just think like those programs just get brushed to the side. No one's paying attention to them. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's not really your job. Like, how many things do the police have to be involved in? We have to, like, don't we have schools for this? Don't we have after school activities for this? Like, what are the police getting involved in this for?
I think that's a great point, and I'm a huge advocate for this program. I thought the program is great. It has to be all or none. And for the most part, it's pretty much none. The commanders don't have time for it. They don't care about it. And for most part, it's mostly cops that really don't even care. They just don't want to do police work, and then it's not there. They're not there because they love kids. Like I said, I handpicked the female officer I had there. She was awesome. The guy in PSA 4 was awesome. But it's just something they wanted to do. They take pride. They love kids, and they're trustworthy. But you're right; it should be all or none. This would be a great opportunity for someone that's retired that wants to be involved in policing, that cares about kids. You're right, but it doesn't have to be an actual active cop. I agree. That's a great point, because the commanders just don't care, and there's no accountability and responsibility for this. And going back to the training, I think sexual harassment training is good to teach people to understand what may be viewed as appropriate behavior or what's viewed as inappropriate behavior. You may not be knowing certain things that you may say or do. Maybe putting your arm around a female cop a certain way could be uncomfortable or not, but that's necessary. But as far as rape training, are you kidding me? Come on, common sense. We actually need training to know what rape is? That's ridiculous. That is absolutely, we grow up knowing right or wrong. To actually need rape training, I think, is ridiculous. That's another checkbox. That is really, honestly, I think that's silly. First of all, that's a huge insult to women that were actually raped. We need to educate someone what is rape. Are you kidding me? You're a New York City police officer. You carry a gun. You could take someone's life, and you need to be educated what is rape. First of all, I'll say this. It doesn't even matter the girl is 14. I don't think that a cop should get involved with any kid in this program. This program, if it's going to stay intact and continue on, the sanctity of the program, if the girl is 18, because they're up to 20 years old, she's of age, you shouldn't take part because she's part of the program. So, it's just absolutely, this is a joke. You need rape training? What an insult to women. And, I think it's sad we're just talking about girls. We got to protect boys also, because when I first got on the job, I'll never forget, there was this kid. He was a cop. He was new, just like me. He got collared. He was touching young boys. So we got to watch the boys too. We got to protect boys and girls. So, but this guy's an animal. He's a complete loser. But so is everyone else in the command that had any ties to this. And that's the commander or anyone that had ties to this that wasn't paying attention, that it took to the point that internal affairs had to get involved. Where are the strong men and women like, yo, dude, what are you doing? Why are you talking to the girls like that? What are you doing? It's a little too close. But it takes strong men and strong women to police each other.
Yeah. So what you're saying is rape training doesn't stop rapists. Somebody said, Matt said that you got a Temu stalling. But yeah, dude, it's the whole thing's an absolute joke. I think the whole program needs to be scrapped. This shows the failure of this program, shows the failure of NYPD leadership. And I think something that should be noted, because someone just said it in here, and I think someone that it should be heavily noted, that the problem with internal affairs and the problem with the job and the upper echelon of the NYPD is if this kid was close to the king, let's say he was, say he was close to the king, he would have got a heads up that undercover was coming at him. He would have known, and we would have never identified this pedophile. So that's the problem when you have the upper echelon of the NYPD with their hand inside of the Internal Affairs Bureau. So because he wasn't in with the in crowd, we find him. But if he was, we would never find him. He would have got a heads up. He would have known. Whole thing would have got squashed. That's 100% accurate. That's the problem. That's the problem. Like I said, they're effective sometimes, but it's not all the time. And especially when the upper echelon's involved or any of the friends of the politicians or the politically appointed. They will allow snakes to be in the grass. They will allow predators to go. I think that's my major problem with the Internal Affairs Bureau at this point is they've proven themselves their inability to properly root out corruption when it's tied to people who are politically connected or the upper echelon of the NYPD. So they've shown us that. And I think, we're going to have Stephen Lee back on here tomorrow, go through his charges. But I think that's what, when you look at his story, I think that is the story, is that if corruption goes up to the top, it's never going to make its way there. The investigation is never going to make its way there. Same thing with the allegations that we dropped against the upper echelon of the NYPD. Like, nobody should be shocked. Like, everybody was shocked when the news stories broke of all these things. And I was like, really? We said it 2 years ago. We said it a year ago. And we told everybody online that we dropped a complaint and why we dropped a complaint. But now, because the New York Post told you, or the Daily News told you, and Fox told you, and CNN told you, and MSNBC told you, now it's like, I'm shocked. I can't believe this was going on. It's like, really? We told you all this was going on. Now you're shocked? It's like, it's like, and again, even in that investigation, even with all this going on in the media, even with Eric Adams being indicted, even with the police commissioner stepping down, what's our Internal Affairs doing? Working very hard, diligently every day to disprove the allegations that we made, to make something that sounds coherent so that when it comes out later on, it could be like, no, this is what we did. So when they're on the stand later trying to explain why they did what they did, it sounds good.
So rhetorically speaking, because this didn't happen, right, John? Let's foresee and foreshadow what would happen if the commanding officer was in the rank of full bird inspector, and the commanding officer was the one who was inappropriate, and things didn't look right, and someone called Internal Affairs that the commanding officer is acting strange around the kids. How do you think that investigation would go, John?
So again, is that commanding officer in with the in crowd? Because if he's not, they'll get him. 100%. He'll get arrested. Same thing will happen to him. If he's close to Eric Adams, if he's up with the upper echelon, if he's close to politicians, he will get a leak that there's an undercover going to come at him and he will pass that integrity test. It depends who it is, bro. It depends who it is. It's nepotism seeping into everything, including internal investigations, including weeding out corruption.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that we've labeled it out for the longest time here, how nepotism does equate to corruption on this job, and it does equate to a complete failure. That's why I think Stephen Lee put on such a great interview, because we really got the insight of how internal affairs cannot be trusted, that information gets leaked out, and that's why Stephen Lee's life was in danger, and the ability to keep this operation secret is virtually impossible, right? Because he had two handlers, his commanding officer had left the precinct. He got a new commanding officer. So now people that know about the undercover operation no longer even work with him. The sanctity of that operation cannot be trusted. I agree. Absolutely. Nepotism is the most egregious problem with the police department right now, and I think it could completely derail this investigation. Obviously, this kid is not close to the king that he was tested in this manner, but if he was, I think it would be a huge hurdle. It's a huge problem. It just shows, unfortunately, I think you're right what we spoke about. Unfortunately, I think that this program needs to be overhauled, and maybe someone retired involved, or an independent entity, because it's just not monitored properly. And right now, in a diminished police department, to have to take more personnel to oversee that, it's a problem with crime. I feel sorry for the kids; they suffer, but at the same token, we can't put you in a program where you're not getting the proper supervision, especially with kids. So it's all or none.
Yeah, so Hassan says they need the acetone parking lot program. So just to go back real quick on the situation where a sergeant and a captain, sergeant, the commanding officer, the executive officer bullied a rookie into opening his car, and they removed his tints with acetone in the parking lot. Made him give him $10. I got a lot of calls about that. I got a lot of calls yesterday too, and apparently this is something that's going on in the NYPD. It was not exclusive to Midtown North, but I'm just telling everybody, don't do it. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, that you're bullying people into doing this. There's absolutely no reason anybody in your command should be at work scraping tints off their window. These supervisors, if they're failing to do it, give them a CD. Oh, they don't want a CD. I don't care. Executives were telling me they don't want CDs for it. I'm like, I don't know who they are. I don't care. It's the same thing when it relates to these vehicle pursuits. Oh, John Shell's going to be mad if you terminate the pursuit. Okay, John Shell could be mad. Call me in the office, John. Okay. Yeah, I terminated this pursuit because of this was why I terminated the pursuit. Okay. All right. You're not going to get a promotion? Okay. You probably never were anyway, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Call me up. Give me a profile. I'll tell you exactly how long it's going to take you to get promoted. Probably it's going to take, if you're a male white captain, it's probably going to take you 7 times longer than everybody else on the job to get promoted. If you're a male Asian captain, it's going to take you, I believe it was 10 times longer. So I'm not exact, but I have the numbers, and that's not because it's how I feel about it. That's just because that's how long it takes on average for someone of your ethnicity and your gender to get promoted based upon the data. So don't worry about John Shell, because he's not going to be there. Don't worry about it. What you need to worry about is protecting yourself and protecting your guys and ending your career. So when they don't want the CD, it's like, okay. It's the same thing when you're a sergeant, bro. Like I learned real early on. It was the best lesson I ever got. Best lesson I ever got was there are no other supervisors. I don't care if the CO's working, the XO's working, the lieutenant's working, the SOL's working, everyone else and their mother's working. When you're a sergeant, you're handling a job, you are on your own. Do not take the advice of anybody. Nobody. If they're giving you advice and not in order, I'm telling you right now, don't take it. If they're giving you advice and you're not getting a direct order, do not take that advice. Do not take it, because ultimately everything that happens on that job will fall on your shoulders. And when the house of cards comes crumbling down, you're only going to be left with you sitting there answering why you did what you did. So you better have a good reason on why you did what you did. It's not going to be because, the other sergeants told me don't worry about it. Oh, the lieutenant told me don't worry about it. No, you better do what you had to do. So the thing is, what happened with his tints? What happened with his tints? I told him to remove it. So what happened? He came back into work the next day. Then what happened? I gave him a CD. Then what happened? I took his plaque. I gave him another CD. Then what happened? I told you that I'll keep writing him CDs every day until he just stops doing it. Or I didn't see the card that day. I'm not basically as a sergeant, I am giving you the discipline to handle. I'm not when I give you a commanding officer, when I give you a CD as a sergeant, I'm not giving you punishment. I'm recommending punishment. I'm sending it to the leadership of the NYPD to say, hey, what are you going to do about this? This guy is flouting the rules that you put in place. I personally don't give a shit that he has tents. I personally think this is bullshit. I don't care. What are you doing? You're the ones telling me you want it off. Here you go. What are you doing about it, Captain or Inspector? What are you doing?
Joe Roscoe says 10,000%, John, don't take advice. John, I am with you. I'm so glad that you say that because I used to always tell the new sergeants, when they call you to a scene, don't get on the phone and start calling other bosses on how to handle your job. Guess what? They called you. I don't care if you have one day in rank. They called you. If you're calling me for advice, they didn't call me. They called you. You're at the scene. You're the one that has the responsibility. You got to be accountable. Just use your common sense and make the best decision. Don't start thinking about the patrol guy. Those are the worst bosses. Like, oh, what is it, the patrol guy? Don't start thinking about policy. You're at the scene. Make the scene safe. Come up with the most logical and sensible decision that you have. And then if there's administrative stuff, when you're at the precinct, you're in a calm environment, then you can worry about that stuff. When you're at a scene, and so what? What's the worst case? Some boss comes and he wants to yell at you. Who cares? We used to always laugh in the Marine Corps. I got two cheeks. If you chew one out, I still got another. Who cares? If you're gonna lose sleep because somebody chewed you out, you got another problem. I can care less. I used to ask questions to my bosses that would help my guys, knowing that I was gonna get chewed out. I didn't care. So what? If I'm gonna get chewed out because it's something that's gonna benefit me and the guys, it's something that's important, it's in the best interest, and I'm just going to get chewed out because my boss gets annoyed that I'm just asking. So what? That's my job. My job is to manage the people below me. My job is to manage the people above you. But you're a sergeant. Okay, you got one day in rank. You get called to a scene. They called you. Those guys are not like, they're not going to be like, oh, we get it. He's on the phone with somebody because he just got out of BMOC. They don't care. You're a sergeant. You got the patch. You got the rank. They see you as a sergeant. They called you. Make the decision. Now, if you want to take a senior cop aside and say, hey, listen, what are your thoughts on this job? Okay, I see what you're saying. All right. And you put it together, then you come up with a decision. But don't call somebody else. Hey, what would you do? I don't know. This guy's a great adventure somewhere. This guy's not, or he's at the pre. He's not there. And there's no two jobs the same. You make the decision. That's true leader.
Yeah, 100%. 100. I don't even want to go on the story, but I feel like it needs to get told because it really is such a good story. It's like I'll make it real quick. First day on patrol, I'm a sergeant. First day, I'm working with two other sergeants. They don't have much more time than me. There's no lieutenants around. There's nobody around. Two sergeants want nothing to do. One's hiding behind a desk. Other sergeants hiding on patrol. I'm actually doing patrol. I'm handling all the jobs. I get a barricaded first job out of the gate. First time as a sergeant. So I'm like a little, but I handle it. I was a cop for a while. I did anti-crime. I was a field intelligence officer. I'm more than capable of being a sergeant. Right? I didn't know that I was, but I was. And I found out right away that day. But when we're doing the roll call that day, it's the first time I do the roll call. We're doing the roll call. There's a spot on the roll call for this one post at like 8:30 needs to go to this one area. Now, when I turn out, I only have 3 cars. I'm down to 2 right away. Right. So, but that 7:30 post, I'm like, yo, what is that post here? I say to the other 2 sergeants, nah, just line it out. Don't worry about it. I'm like, nah. That's weird. I'm like, that's weird. Why is it there? They're like, when you see on the back of the roll call, I'm like, yeah. No, I know what those are. I'm like, but this one's weird. This is a weird post. Like this says 8:30 and it has an officer's name assigned there. Like, what's up with that? What's up with that post? Nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm telling you. Listen, relax. You're shaking out. I was like, I'm not shaking out. I said, there's nothing on the change sheet because when you're going through the roll call, if there's a weird post, there's something on the back that's called a change sheet, and they'll tell you exactly why the cop's there and what they're doing and what their mission is. So there's nothing on the change sheet. There's just this one line on the roll call that like at 8:30, this guy's going to go to this one spot. So I'm like, that's weird. I was like, is anybody else around here? Like, is there a community affairs cop or something around or somebody? Where's the SOL? Nah, bro, it's the weekend. Nobody's here. Relax. If anything, it's on me. This is what the desk officer tells me, right? If anything, it's on me. I lined it out, right? I'm like, okay. The other kid that's doing patrol, but he's hiding. And if you two are listening to this, good. Call me up, and I won't blow your names up, but you can call me up because this is exactly what happened. So then the other patrol sergeant who's hiding, not doing patrol while I'm actually doing patrol, he's like, John, relax. You're shaking out. If anything, it's on me. It's your first day. Don't worry about it. Right? So I'm like, okay. So I, like an idiot, take their advice. I line it out. Now, in my head, I'm like, I'm still going to send somebody there. I'm still going to send somebody there at 8:30. I'm going to go there and see what's going on. But the night gets so busy that I completely forget about it. Right? I have a barricaded out of the gate. We're making arrests. The radio's jumping. I completely forget about it. I'm moving cars all over the place. Around 9 o'clock, I get a call from the desk. Hey, John, you remember that post that we were supposed to fill? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, the SOL called. He's flipping out. He wants to know why there's nobody there. I was like, oh, and let me guess. You told him you don't know. He's like, yeah, bro, I don't know. I don't know why. I told him I don't know. I told him I don't know. I was like, oh, what happened to, don't worry, I got it. I said, give me his number. I'll call him. No. F him. Don't call him. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I was like, well, it sounds like you're worried about it, dude. Sounds like you're worried about it. So he's like, he doesn't give me his number, right? I hang up the phone. Now I'm like, go over to the spot. But as I'm driving over there, the other kid who's been hiding out all night, now he calls me. The other kid that's on patrol has been nowhere to be found. Actually stole a cop that I could be using, right, to drive around with. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but getting fat. And he calls me. He's like, yeah, listen, the SOL just called me. He wants to know why we lined out the post. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, guess what? I was like, I'm the rookie sergeant here. I said, from now on, anything I say goes. Nothing you guys tell me, I listen to ever again. You guys are cowards. You both sat there and told me, don't worry about it. If anything, I said, well, there's one thing about me. If I tell you something, that's what it is. Right? I said, give me the guy's number. Give me the guy's number. I'm going to call him. Give me the guy's number. No, screw him. Don't call him. I'm like, whatever. So I go over to where it's supposed to be, and it's a Hasidic wedding, right? And apparently the owner, not the owner, but the guy that was getting married, there were death threats that they were going to shoot him at his wedding night at the ceremony. So they asked for if there could be a detail there to ensure that nothing's going to happen. Now, I don't know how a cop is going to stop you from getting shot in a Hasidic wedding, because more than likely the person that walks in to shoot you is going to look like a member of the Hasidic community, and you're not going to know. So, but anyway, long story short, the sergeant on the desk now calls me back because he's panicking because the SOL wants to know why that spot wasn't filled. So I said, give me his number, you coward. I was like, I just told the other one from now on, anything that happens on this tour, it's coming through me. I'm never taking your advice again. You guys are nobody, in my opinion. You're nobody, right? I'm furious. So I call the SOL, and like a man, not like them, I call him. I say, how you doing, Lieutenant? It's John McCarry. I just got assigned here. I said, I heard you asking about the roll call. I just want to let you know I lined out the roll call. Flipped out. Who do you think you are? You're getting a CD. I said, okay, boss, no problem. I understand. I said, I just want to let you know it wasn't intentional. There was nothing on the chain sheet, and I'm running 2 cars right now. I said, I have someone out there, and now I'm only running 1 car. I said, I have someone standing on the foot post, but he flips out on me. I take the entire thing. He tells me, you're not talking me on a CD. No problem. Blah, 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 blah. Go back. But my first day there, the SOL hates me, all because I followed the advice of 2 idiots, 2 morons, right? Who said, don't worry about it. It's on me, bro. And then when the shit hit the fan, what'd they do? They ran and hid like little girls. So that's my point, is like, you're the boss. When you make the decision, own it. Own it. That's it. Own it. I followed their advice like a moron, knowing I shouldn't have. Don't do that.
I never seen such cowardice like I see in the NYPD. I was crime sergeant for 6 years. I was special ops lieutenant, so I wasn't doing roll call in the same manner that the desk was, but plenty of times I was at the desk. I was going over, looking at who's in for the day with my guys, whatever the case. Looking at the roll call, looking at what notes they have, the memos from the CO, and looking at the change sheet. And what was on the change sheet every day? I would assume probably in your command too, but PSA 7 and PSA 4, I don't care what administration, it was every day. You look at the change sheet, and in huge letters and capital letters, it would always say no excuses. Right? And I always have that desk sergeant there.
Oh, that was on it.
Yours too? Guys would call and ask for the day. By the way, Tom says, John, you are a real leader. Absolutely. That's why he's no longer on the job. So, which is true. John, shout out to you, brother. But so I would be at the desk, and I'd hear the desk sergeant on the phone like, just, let's say it was a day talk. Just call back. Your boss should be here like, 2:55, 3 o'clock. Just call back like 2:55, 3 o'clock and see if he gives you the day or not. Like, dude, what are you doing? That guy is home. That guy is getting at 3 o'clock. He's going to get dressed and start doing the roll call. Just make the decision. Oh, but it says no excuses. It says no excuses there every day. Who cares? Cross that stupid thing out. Have some balls and give what's going on? Oh, this cop's got a problem with his kid. Give the day. Are you kidding me? Just give him the day. Why do you care? This was my thing. I would always say I could juggle anything. It's no problem. You got the time in the books? Then take the day. That was my theory. If you got the time in the books, who am I to deny you? Shame on the police department for not juggling it, to the point that with people, they would complain and say, oh, this person has too much time in the books. Yeah, because you won't give them the day off. If they have the time on the books, that was my question. You got time in the books? Yeah, no problem. Then I'll give you the day. We'll figure it out. And then guys would start asking what's going on with them. Why are you asking? Or sometimes I remember some of my COs would ask me, why'd you give so-and-so the day? What's going on with them? I would tell them, no offense, boss, but none of your business, and it's none of mine. It's none of my business. I can care less. If I'm not asking them personal questions. It's not my business. And even if they lie to me and do something different, what am I going to do? Oh, you were at the mall. You got the time of the books. Take the day. Figure it out. And it would say no excuses in giant letters every day. That, first of all, where are the unions to say this is ridiculous? To have a scare tactic so people don't take the day off by having giant letters that say no excuses, because half the time the commanders don't even know it's there. The administration just puts it there every day. But cowards, like, hold on. Call your boss back. What are you kidding me? You got the roll call in front of you. Make a decision. What's the worst case? The commander comes and yells at you. In 5 minutes, he's going to forget about it. So what? Who cares? But again, cowards. So you did the right thing, John. It's no surprise to me. This is just stand up and have some balls. Jesus Christ.
No, it's a joke, dude. And you know what used to always make me laugh though is like I'd be the end of the tour doing like 3 or 4 49s when I'm on patrol, and everyone would be like, "Oh, the CO loves you. You're getting all this overtime." I'm like, "CO doesn't love me. He actually told me that I can't take any more overtime." They said, "So what are you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna fill out the overtime sheet. I'm gonna hand it in, and I'm gonna get the overtime." I said, "Because what do you want me to do? I have 4 49s to do at the end of the tour." Well, how come I'm not getting overtime? I'm like, because you shit can't have your job. You're not doing the 49s you're supposed to do, or you're rushing to do the 49. And then they put some stupid rule out that like, oh, you're going to hand off your 49s. I'm like, I'm never handing off my 49. It's never happening. No one's ever going to write what happened on my scene. And next thing I know, I'm getting a call from everyone and their mother, like, what the hell happened over there? It's not even accurate. I'm like, no one's doing my 49. I'm doing my own 49s. And then I had other sergeants like trying to shove their 49s to me at the end of the tour. And I'm like, dude, what is this? I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. You're going to go back out there and investigate the scene. I'm like, I don't know what male stabbed means at this address at this time. I have to reinvestigate this case. I'm not doing it. You're doing it. And I wouldn't do it. I refused to do it. And like, that's the problem is people just follow stuff because they don't want to make waves. But there's some things that need to be waves about. You're going to take that 49 over from that sergeant who didn't do anything. You don't even know that the scene was handled properly. Next thing you know, you're at the GO, you're getting charges, and this dude's nowhere to be found. And it's like, well, it was on his shift at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and now it's 5 o'clock at night, and he's trying to hand off a 49 for me to do. Get the hell out of here. You're out of your mind. Do your own job. And it's the same thing when they told me to hand off my 49. Never handed my 40. And they're like, how do you get all this overtime? I'm like, oh, it's simple. You take one of these sheets, it's called an overtime slip, and you fill it out and you hand it to the desk. Like, if that's how you get it.
You know, John, I learned a lot at the desk. You know what's funny? Because a lot of stuff goes on the desk. But by the way, awesome story, dude. I'll never forget. One day I'm at the desk, and a couple of my guys call me like, we got one, boss. And that was always, got one means they got a gun, right? And I wasn't that boss like, all right, so give me the details. I'm going to come over. I trust my guys. They were good. You got one? Bring him in. We'll figure it out. You know, we'll discuss it. So, you know how the desk is pretty much elevated, right? So I'll never forget, I see these two cops walking, two hairbags. They walk in with a perp. And I just right away caught my eye the way this guy was walking, kind of had that stiff leg. And I said, and it's just a simple question. I'm like, did you guys toss him? They're like, we're just transporting. I was like, whoa, okay. They didn't say we tossed him. They just said, we're just transporting. So right away, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. So I'm looking. It just didn't look right to me, dude. I had that eye for guns. And I'm like, did you toss him? Toss him again. So they put gloves on, and man, they barely touch this guy, like kick gloves. So I put on a pair of gloves. I walk around. I put my hand in his pants, and I pull out a load of 25. I was like, you two idiots. Are you kidding me? You're about to bring this guy into the cells where there's people on live scan right now. Nobody's got a gun in there. This guy's going in there fully loaded. Are you kidding me? Total hairbags. That was those two of the only few CDs I ever wrote in my entire career. And I'm sure they probably listen right now. I could care less. Maybe I saved their lives and saved other lives going forward. But that was the line. Just transport. So the point is, you would see a lot at the desk. So anybody, if you're a cop, if you're active, you're a friend and listen to this podcast and you become a sergeant, don't take the desk for granted. You learn a lot there. So I remember the XO made a joke to me one day. We were out in the back parking lot. We used to smoke cigars every day. And, Bootlicker News actually talked crap about me on the internet saying I would smoke cigars to project authority. So I still smoke cigars, by the way. So we're smoking cigars in the back. I'll never forget. The XO comes out to me and goes, what are you guys doing? Canvassing the parking lot? Actually, I could just canvass the desk. The funny part was he's a good guy, but he actually directed someone to bring somebody in on a warrant. And that's how the guy came in. But yeah, the desk, man, you can learn a lot. So just use your eyes, use your common sense. So that's really all it takes to be a good cop. It's just common sense and be logical. So, but great story, brother. I'm sure a lot of people had some funny stories at the desk, but be careful there. There's, make sure you actually toss to these guys good.
No, the desk and the patrol sergeant is a job. You are running the precinct. You are the guy. The desk officer is the second. I mean, those are the two hardest jobs in the NYPD. Those are the people that make the wheels turn. That's why nobody wants those jobs, right? Because those are the hardest jobs. You got a lot of stress. Those are hard jobs. After a while, you just can't do it. Hassan asked, would we ever consider bringing Mike Dowd on the show? So I had posted a story one time about how Chief Campisi had said that Michael Dowd, and he did say this. He said this in Queens College. He said that Michael Dowd road to corruption all started with a free cup of coffee. And I said that how I never believed it, and I always thought it was nonsense. How I always thought that Mike Dowd was he was a perp prior to coming on the job, and the job actually helped him to further his career. So apparently someone sent it to him. He wasn't too happy about it. But with that being said, I honestly, I've listened to Mike Dowd on several podcasts. And I heard him talk a lot about, especially at the height of 2020 and 2021, when it was all about forgiving perps. And he's like, well, where's my forgiveness? Like, I served my time. I lost my career. I lost my good name. I served time in jail. Like, I paid my debt to society, yet still to today, I'm treated like a piece of garbage, right? Like, and like when perps and murderers and rapists aren't, they're given second chances and everybody else. But me, I'm like the worst person on earth. And, so I don't feel bad for Mike Dowd, because at the end of the day, his actions may have gotten a few cops killed. And if you talk to a couple older cops in the 7-5, his actions did get cops killed. And his actions did lead to civilians getting killed too. So I don't feel bad that Mike Dowd lost his job. But I think, again, there's a story to be told there. I got no issue with it. I don't think Eric would have an issue with it. I mean, like I don't, and Corey Pegues, I actually early on I invited Corey Pegues on, and he wouldn't come on. So, I never invited Mike Dowd on, but I listen, if he ever wanted to come on, we could work it out. I don't care. We had a little tat on social media. I get he was mad about it, but that's just how I looked at it, and that's how I still look at it.
Well, pretty much. I'm willing to have anybody on here for the most part, unless they're just completely disrespectful and it's going to be a terrible show. But for the most part, I'm willing to have anybody on here. I would love to, just talk to him and hear how he compares his case of corruption and what the potential probe is going on right now, and talk about similarities and differences, and talk about what he thinks about how the Internal Affairs Bureau is run, because he does say in his podcast that he wants to help uncover corruption, what's going on right now. So, will this always be a stain in his life? Absolutely. But even with him, I do believe in second chances, in a sense. Like, do we completely erase it? We don't forget, but we forgive. So I do believe in that, right? You don't always have to forget, but we have to forgive. He did pay his debt. So I do believe in that. No one's impervious. There's a lot of people that make mistakes in life and change their lives around, and there could be some good. And we also have to say, is it possible? Could he be a different person today than he was then? I always say zebras don't change their stripes, but at the same token, hopefully he learned. I mean, he spent 11 and a half years in jail, and I would assume he must be much different now than he was then. And hopefully we could use that as a benefit to show, how do we fight corruption going forward? Because, according to Frank Serpico, he says that there's really still no avenue for a cop to speak out against corruption, to keep their identity secret. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. There is a lot of truth to that. And we see it with Stephen Lee, right? We see it here. So I think this is a great case.
So Hassan also says we need to bring on Ralph Friedman. Hassan, we had Ralph Friedman on. Watch that podcast. We're actually in contact often with Ralph Friedman. Great guy. Ralph Friedman's a night owl, though. So we have to do podcasts at night with him. He doesn't wake up in the morning. He stays up all night. He does a midnight tour. Ralph's a great guy. Definitely check that podcast out. That was a great podcast. Other podcasts I recommend you guys checking out if you want to hear old timers speak. We did with the author of Circle of Six. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Randy Jurgensen. Detective Randy Jurgensen. We had him on as well. Definitely check that podcast out. If you guys didn't read Circle of Six, you're out of your mind. We gotta do that. And another book that I'm in the process of getting right now is, I don't know if you guys know about Bill Phillips. He was the primary witness in the Knapp Commission. So he testifies. He goes in front of the Knapp. He testifies, tells all the corruption that he took part in, and then he gets found guilty of murder. And he says that the NYPD and the district attorney's office framed him for murder, and then he served a long time in jail. Recently died at like 92 years old. He wrote a book. I'm actually going to read that. I'm a couple of books deep behind, so I don't know when I'm going to get to that one. But that's a pretty crazy story too. So his corruption that he uncovers in the Knapp Commission, and that he tells, is that he talks about the corruption he was doing, but he talks about the corruption in the DA's office and with the elected officials. And I think a lot of people, unlike Serpico, who was touted to be a good cop, Bill Phillips was touted to be a bad cop. So, like the job was pushing back on a lot of things that Bill Phillips was saying. But I think there's a lesson learned in everybody's story. So, his name's Bill Phillips. That's the primary witness in the Knapp Commission. Randy Jurgensen authored The Circle of Six. That's the killing of Officer Patrolman Philip Cardillo. I still get chills thinking about that book. And then when you hear Randy tell it from his version, and Randy's elderly now, but when he recollects it, he talks about it like he's there, like it just happened the night before. So I don't think you forget things like that in life. Crazy story, crazy guy, Randy Jurgensen. Check that interview out. Check the interview out with Ralph Friedman. Those are honestly my favorite podcasts. Those two that we did. I love speaking with the old timers and getting their opinions. And then, and both of them are very up on the current affairs in the NYPD and in New York City politics. So it's crazy to talk to these guys that were off the job before we were even born, yet we look at things almost exactly the same from the same lens. And I never even met them, and I don't know them, and we grew up in different neighborhoods and different time periods. So it's a weird thing. It was like those were my two favorite interviews, I think.
I read Circle of Six years ago, actually way before I ever thought I'd be cop turned podcaster. And I remember I got the book and I was in my bed. I was like, I figured I'd just read a little bit. I'll never forget. I read the book. It was so good I couldn't put it down. I literally read it in one night. One of the few books I actually read in one night in my life. It was amazing. I just couldn't put it down. So then when we put it together, we actually had Randy on it. It was unbelievable because Randy, like, he really had his wits about him. And you're right. When he was telling the story, it's almost like the emotion was still there. It was almost like real time. And it's an amazing story. God bless him. Maybe we could bring him on here one day for a couple minutes live. Or Ralph. Ralph is super cool. He's a cool guy. These people are really cool. And we saw a lot of similarities between their time and now and the differences. So I honestly, pretty much, I think John's open to it too. I'm pretty much open to having anyone here, even people that are kind of polarizing. We're big boys. We get a lot of trolls. I can take people that don't even like us, that hate us. That's fine. As long as we keep it respectful. I always say this, I don't have to respect the person, but I will show you respect. And that's really how you should treat people, And I think if you do that, you show a lot of strength in that. So let's switch gears. Let's look at this picture. And this picture speaks of volumes. It shows 1,000 words. So our friends that listen to the podcast, just tell me what you see. What picture does this paint to you? What do you see by this picture? So John, you put this picture up. It was a great picture. I'll let you start with it. Go ahead, brother.
So originally I snapped a photo of this picture and I said, I wonder who the next NYPD police commissioner is going to be. And then Marlon had put out a couple of photos about it. A lot of people had commented on it. So before I go ahead on the photo, there's 795 people here in the live chat. If you guys could just share this out, like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you're on social media, if you could like and share out the space, we appreciate it. So, but I think this photo it was very funny, right? Kaz Daughtry loves putting out photos, but some of the photos, I'm like, I don't think he looks at these photos. IMP Franco says defeated. All defeated. And when you look at this photo, that's how they appear to look. They appear to look all defeated. Now, this one's actually from Marlon Bethel, and where he crops out and he zooms in on John Shell's face, and he writes this: the look of a man who knows he's been marginalized by a racist mayor, but has rationalized that. At least he gets to be called cheap for a little bit longer. The state of the Western man in one picture. It's very true. I've seen him at a town hall recently where there was a very similar look on his face. But if you look at all these guys, when I look at them, I agree with Franco, because they all look defeated, and they do, and they should. You know why you should look defeated? Because you spent 30 years of your career going through the processes in the NYPD, dealing with all the nonsense, and some of it we share on here, like we just showed you, day in and day out, tour after tour, day after day, dealing with all the bull crap, while this kid drove somebody around and never dealt with any of it. And now he's in charge of you, and he still doesn't deal. He doesn't even know what you guys do as executives, right? He was never that duty captain that had to deal with all those off-duty incidents and do the midnight duties and deal with all the management issues and the managerial issues and do 49s. I'll bet you this kid doesn't even know how to write a 49. He's going to be the police commissioner. He's never wrote a 49 in his life. So when you look at these and all the decisions and all the battles and all the fighting these people had to do internally, externally, with everyone, with their bosses, with their subordinates, with other commands, with bureau and borough chiefs, with DAs, with all of these things that all of these men did. They all listen. They all listen. They currently listen to him anyway. I don't care what rank he is. I don't care if he was still a detective. They all do everything that he says to be done. And they've done it for a very long time now. A very, very long time now. They all do this for someone with absolutely zero experience or who doesn't have, I think Keechan Sewell said it best. Someone who doesn't even have half of the experience I have. And I'm going to say right now, Kaz Daughtry, when you look around that room, he doesn't even have 0.5% of the experience that each one of these men has. So I'm no fan of John Schell, but I'm not going to sit there and say that John Schell didn't go through all those processes. He went up the ranks. Yeah, did he ride Marjorie's coattails all the way up after that? Yeah, he did. But doesn't matter. He still did all of those things. He was still COs. He still went through every single process on this job. Kaz Daughtry did not one of them. He was never even a patrol sergeant. He was never even a desk officer. He never even wrote a 49.
Yeah, but you know what, John? Bum. He's a bum. You know why? Because he and the other chiefs of the department, how much money do you really need? They could have said, you know what? I'm not playing this game. I'm not playing this game with you. I'm retiring. If every one of these chiefs was retiring at the same time, what would they do? But they all decide to play the game. They all, because they want to still be chief of patrol and chief of department and have prestige. Because really, how much money you need? If you're making $25,000 a month on your pension or $28,000, does it really matter? Does it really make a difference? At some point, they could have said, you know what? I'm not playing these games. I'm not working for some guy that has half the experience I have. I'm not doing it. But they all conceded and they all agreed to it. So you know what? I can care less. I don't feel bad from either Juju, whoever you are. You're a bum. You played the game. Listen, continue to play. I don't feel sorry for you one bit. Yeah, he took these tests and everything, but they agreed to play the game. Because not one of these chiefs saying, you know what? Time to go. This is the way you want to run the police department. I'm out. Nope. Instead, they're going to stay there, and they're going to continue to pander. Just like, a lot of people were rooting for Savino. He's the next guy up and coming. No, but he played the game also. He played the game. Oh, all the immigrants, they're fantastic. They're coming here illegally, but they want a better life. Get out of here. Bums, every one of them. Get them out. Could care less. You know what? They deserve it. They want to play these games. They deserve it.
Steve Lee says it gives hope that anyone could be the PC. LOL. I said that about de Blasio. I said that about Adams. Their stories are both very motivating to me because when I sit there and I look at them, I'm like, if those two guys can be the mayor in New York City, I could 100% be the mayor in New York City. And the same's true when I look at Kaz Daughtry or I look at John Schell or I look at Ed Caban or I look at Tom Donlin. I'm like, oh, if those guys could be the police commissioner, I absolutely could be the police commissioner. For all my faults and all the things I'm lacking, I 100% they wouldn't be able to shine my shoes. So 100% these are motivating times. You got to look at it in the positive light as well, right? Anything's possible. God bless America. God bless civil service. That anybody could do
John
this.
Schell,
right?
he won't be John Schell won't be the commissioner. He doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, he should. Like when we do Crumbs and we do the series, part of it's going to be like a little spin-off of The Sopranos. And we're going to have a character like loosely based around John Schell when he's sitting down with a psychiatrist, sort of like the Tony Soprano. Like he's going to sit down with a psychiatrist and work himself out, that he's got to listen to Kaz, but he's still really the boss and he's the one that knows everything, and so, and every time he sees the gabagool, he gets, he has a panic attack, things of that nature.
But John, don't you agree that all these chiefs conceded and they all agreed to play this game? Not they're not saying, hey, it's time to retire, that we're not playing this game. They all agreed to play the game. So how can we feel sorry for them? Because if they all stood together in strength and said, you know what, we're not playing this game, we're out of here, they'd have to make a move. But they don't. Because it's more important that they still wear that chief. It's more important that somehow they find themselves relative, because this is their only significance and importance in life. So shame on them. Honestly, I don't feel bad for them. I don't.
Yeah, everyone points out though, Hood May in New York City, they all lost their hand. Well, Shell's still got some hair up there. The rest of them, everybody's bald. Everybody's bald. It is funny. It is funny. Like, it's a funny picture. Everyone in the photo is bald. Like, what the hell? But all right. But on a serious note, when we look at this picture, there was a couple of rumors floating around yesterday that Adams was going to make his brother Bernard the police commissioner. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, he added the head of security that the brother stepped down from. The brother's ensnared in this corruption scandal as well. He wouldn't be able to take a salary. So I don't think that that's going to happen, but that was one of the rumors. So what do you think? Do you think that Tom Donlin's going to step down soon? Those were the reports last week. It kind of got downplayed. I think we all believe it was because Jessica Tisch is smart and listened to good advice from her father and did not want to work under this administration in an embroiled police department that's under a federal corruption probe. So I think that was a smart move on her part, not taking it, because I think those rumors were very accurate. But who do you think is going to be the next police commissioner? Ultimately, like we said, as long as Adams is the mayor, Kaz Daughtry will remain the police commissioner. But do you think he will be officially named, or do you think it's going to be someone else at this point?
So no, I don't think he's going to be officially named. I think he is the de facto police commissioner. I think right now Tom Donlin, I could assume, I would put my money that is doing Adams a favor. I would bet, if I was a bet man, Adams is telling Tom Donlin, you don't have to do anything. Just stand there. Just be the face of the department. Once in a while, we'll call you to the podium. You play the game. Kaz Daughtry is going to run all the operations, and they're looking for somebody to put in as another face, another puppet. That's my assumption. That's my assessment of what's going on right now. But whoever else they put in, Kaz Daughtry will still be the police commissioner and actually in charge of operations. But I don't think they're going to name him the actual commissioner. I don't think so at all. But as long as Eric Adams is here, Kaz Daughtry is going to be in charge of operations. And I think that's what Tom Donlin is doing. I think he's just holding the seat right now. He's a complete simp until the next person that's actually willing to take that spot as the next insignificant police commissioner and, sitting there as a puppet. That's my prediction. That's what I think. What are your thoughts on that, John? Do you agree?
I don't know, man. I'm like I said, I was leaning the other day when I watched the press conference on Roosevelt Avenue, and he showed up in a suit, and he's looking like, if you see how he's dressing a lot differently lately, he's got his vest there. And speaking of his vest, it's a great point. Let me bring that thing down real quick. Let's look at his vest. When you look at his vest, I want you to take note. It doesn't say Deputy Commissioner Daughtry. It says Commissioner Daughtry. I think, obviously misrepresented. It should say Deputy Commissioner, but it doesn't for a reason, because I think ultimately he is the boss. But I think I'm leaning with that he is actually going to be named the police commissioner. When I looked at that Roosevelt Avenue press conference and he showed up in the suit, he was the main speaker at it. He was still terrible. He's been speaking for almost a year and a half. It's horrible. Hasn't improved at all, which is amazing to me. But so when I look at it, I am leaning towards, I think that he is going to be named as the police commissioner, unless Eric Adams steps down prior to then. I just don't see it. I think they're holding on. But it doesn't. Tom Donlin does not appear confident that he is going to remain the police commissioner. Just anytime he's asked a question, he ducks out of it. He doesn't appear to have done anything as a police commissioner. He appears to be a placeholder. Again, I still think that we're in the last days of the Adams administration, and anything's possible. I think anything's possible. I think he will name the fourth police commissioner, and I think I'm leaning with he's going to name Kaz Daughtry. I could be wrong, but that's just how I'm leaning, and I still know that John Schell and Jeffrey Madry are headed for the exits. I don't care what anyone tells me. The only way that changes is if all of these investigations go away overnight on Eric Adams, and then they'll say, but I still know they're headed for the exits. I don't care what John Schell says in Comstat. He is going somewhere very soon.
Well, we've seen this before, right? This is not the first time he had a uniform item or some apparel that actually said commissioner. Right when he was assistant commissioner, he had apparel that said commissioner, and then after this podcast, and we pointed out, he changed it. So this is nothing new. I don't think he's going to be appointed as the actual commissioner. If he was, I think they could have did it already. I mean, he did mention him being on the bench. So at this point, Tom Donlan is there as the interim. He's pretty much useless. So he could do it right now. That's why I'm leaning towards him looking for someone else to be the face. I do think that Kaz Daughtry is the actual police commissioner running operations, but will he be named? I don't think so. I don't think so, because if he was, I think he would do it already. So I think they're looking for someone right now. It may be a last resort, but I don't see it right now. That really would be a complete breakdown of morale, and he might lose a lot of chiefs because of that. So, but I do think that, like I said, we've seen apparel just like that before saying commissioner. So, I mean, again, you can see that picture. Pictures paint 1,000 words. Clearly, he's in charge of operations. But again, these chiefs don't stand together. They don't say, hey, we're not playing this game. They all concede to play the game. I'm sure they're all praising him up and down in public, and behind closed doors, they're probably ranting and screaming. But again, how much money do you need? I mean, these chiefs are well-to-do. Their pensions are very substantial. They can leave right now and have substantial lives. And probably if they really want to work, if that's what they want to do, that's how they find significance and importance, to be part of something and work. A lot of these guys, because of their resume, would get opportunities in civilian private entities and make far more money on top of their pension right now. So it's not about money. It's about them being relative and holding their prestige and being in the police department and vying for that position that they want. So again, I really don't feel sorry for them. I just don't. I get it. They've grinded more than Kaz Daughtry. They've taken the test. They know what it is to hold a CompStat, to be accountable as a commander for a precinct. There's a lot of things that they've learned and walked through in that path that Kaz Daughtry has not. But even with that, they're willing to play that game. I think John Shell could say to himself, hey, look at how much time I have in the job, how far I've come. I'm not willing to concede and work for someone that doesn't have this experience. But do I feel sorry for him that he's miserable there? Absolutely not. Shame on him that he can't say, you know what? At some point, everyone has to say, hey, my time is up. Time to go. Let me go do something else. But he's not willing to do that.
Yeah, no, it's funny, man. I don't feel bad for anybody. I don't feel bad for any person sitting at this table. I don't feel bad for any person who lost their career as a result of Kaz Daughtry. And by the way, I know 20 of them, maybe more, and I know people that are miserable hiding in silence that have been transferred all over because of this dude. He's out of his mind. Someone said that he's getting Joe Roscoe says Kaz is getting the public safety spot. No, he's not. The spot was already filled. We did that. That was Deputy Mayor of Public Safety's Chauncey, whatever the hell his name, Chauncey Parker. Yeah, he was named as it. That he's not going anywhere. He's a staple in the Democratic New York City. As far as he was there under De Blasio. He was a deputy commissioner in the NYPD under De Blasio. He'll remain a deputy commissioner he'll now remain the deputy mayor as long as Eric Adams is in there. Ron Layson says, you guys better call United Signia and get the retired and unfiltered Man of the Year plaque made. Adams isn't going anywhere before January 1st. Yeah, unfortunately, Ron, I'd like to disagree with you, but I think you're right. I think you're right. No,
Listen, John, we got to be men of our word. If he lasts till January 1st, we got to get a shirt that says Adams is the Man of the Year. We have to. We got to do it. We will do it. Absolutely.
I think we have to throw him a party and invite him. That's what I think.
I actually think we would have a good time with him. We would have. I don't know if I would bring baby oil, but I think. I think we laugh. I think we laugh. He actually seems like a funny guy to hang around.
Who, Adams?
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't want to go to the freak offs with him. I'm sure he's funny. Like
that's what I'm saying. I'm not bringing baby oil.
Before the drinking starts, it definitely gets weird after that.
I watch my drinks. I won't leave them unattended.
Logic's Finest says, has Kaz Daughtry ever been an actual B cop? No, he hasn't. Does he have arrests to his name? Yes, he absolutely does. We did a whole episode on him. It was called Nepotism in the NYPD. I thought we gave a fair assessment. I don't think we beat him up a lot, but he has never went through the processes that anybody has went through. Like I said, yes, was he a cop? Yes, did he make arrests? Yes. Did he go to these details and stand out on foot posts for 16 hours? No. Was he running around the streets of Brooklyn, standing on a foot post for 12, 16 hours, being treated like garbage? No. Was he, in a patrol car? No. Was he doing anti-crime work? No. He was running around playing with everything, getting carte blanche with everything, like a kid in a candy store, doing what he wants, taking off when he wants. He never went through the processes or the system. He never experienced what the average member of the NYPD experiences, not even the average, what every member of the NYPD experiences. He's been placed off on a pedestal his entire career. And that's partly why, he's so arrogant. And that's partly why he can't see all of the things he does. And he can't understand, why morale is so low, as he doesn't understand those processes. Just because he was a cop, just because he sat in central booking a few times or went to court with a few people, he doesn't have those same experiences. He came and did what he pleased. He was bossing cops around. He was bossing bosses around when he was a young cop. So, and he's a nepotism baby. That's all he is, and he's not good at it. And from what I see, he's not too talented at any of the stuff. Put a clip out yesterday. I think we could play that, and then I think we should start to wrap this up. What do you think about Kaz Daughtry? Do you think he has the experiences?
No, again, it's funny. We were talking about this before this surfaced in the news about Kaz Daughtry running the police department, right? And we were talking about, could you imagine some cop or some detective tells you what to do? We would have conceded to that, but they conceded to it. They were playing this game way before he was actually appointed as assistant commissioner, before he was appointed as deputy commissioner, before he's acting as the police commissioner, sitting in that seat. They were willing to play this game when he was a detective, allowing that detective to boss them around, because these guys don't have any fortitude or any balls to stand up to other people and say, wait a minute, it's ridiculous. You sent a detective to tell me what to do? No, they didn't stand up then. They played the game then. They're playing it now. So you know what? Reap what you sow. I don't feel sorry for them. They're not here for money. They're here for the relevance. They want to stay in this. They want to be relevant. That's what's important to them. So you know what? God bless. This is what you get, because they're not willing to stand up. For most of these guys, honestly, if there wasn't an age limit, you would have to drag them out of there. These guys, that's their life. And I'm not saying that listen, for some people, that's okay. It's good. It's good to have your heart and compassion to something. But at the same token, at some point, you have to say, wait a minute. There has to be a line. There has to be a limit where you draw boundaries. Kaz Daughtry is absolutely, he was given that opportunity back then, and he's doing it now. Now he's actually in a position of power. So they all conceded to it. So they're partly responsible. Adams is responsible for putting him in there by nepotism, but they're responsible for playing this game. It takes two to tango. So if both parties did not tango, Kaz Daughtry would not be at this point.
Yeah, Chris Arnold says, imagine Kaz, a guy who can't testify in court can't testify in certain boroughs, being the PC. Yeah, I mean, but that's the requirement in the Adams regime. If you don't have a lie in charge on you, you ain't going up, bro. Incompetence and your ability to lie with a straight face, and then just that brings you ahead. You need the ability to lie with a straight face, and you need to be incompetent. So last thing, I found this clip. I was actually looking at this will probably get us demonetized, and so if you guys will listen to this later and the clip's not there, it's because literally every clip I pull in gets us demonetized. I don't know what the hell's going on lately. But so if it's not there later, this is a clip of Eric Adams as a borough president speaking on the defund the police movement. Now, I often said that he didn't support it, but I was wrong, because in this clip, he actually says he does. He says he supports it. He doesn't support taking resources away from the NYPD, but he supports taking money away. And the things that he supports that taking their budget away so that they're not buying toys. But then when he becomes the mayor, he increases the NYPD's budget to buy toys. And he puts this kid in charge, Kaz Daughtry, to buy toys. And all they're doing is buying toys. And then when we look at those contracts, and we could dabble into that in another episode, because I think that'll be long. We look at the stock prices of those contracts. And when we look at the contracts that they went for those said toys, I think that when it all pans out and everything pans out, I think that you're going to see that a lot of these people involved in buying these toys and pushing these toys on social media, these robots, these scanners, these drones, all are heavily invested into the companies that New York City had contract with by way of buying shares, by buying stocks. And that is completely illegal. And that is also something that needs to get looked at. I could show you guys examples of it. I just don't want to be here for 2 hours. We could do that another day. But I think this clip was a good clip. I found this. Because I was watching a clip on police corruption, and so I was like going through this media channel. So here's Eric Adams on defund the police.
I wanted to ask you on the issue of defunding the police, which has become something that a lot of folks in our city council, as well as outside people, are advocating for. Daniel Drum, who's the chair of the finance committee and oversees budget, says it's time to defund the NYPD. I wonder, budgets show your true priorities. If you were mayor right now, would you be on the side of people calling for that defunding?
Well, and we need a definition, because some people are hearing defunding and they're thinking about disbanding. There's a body of people out there that are saying we don't need police in our societies. Let's disband the police department. Let's do it away. I don't subscribe to that. In fact, I think that's foolish because the prerequisite to prosperity is public safety. If we're talking defunding about looking at their budget and taking away some of the dollars that we give there, I'm all for that. We don't need all of the toys that police are buying and purchasing. I think we need to put in place a special group of city council personnel who receive top secret clearance from the FBI and from our federal government so that they can bring the police behind closed doors as an intelligence committee so they can look at what they're purchasing, find out what the needs are, and what methods they're using to conduct investigations.
When it comes to that.
So what'd you think about that?
That's classic Eric Adams. You never know what he's for or what he's against. He says one thing, he does another. Classic Eric Adams. So I hope that the cops that really support Eric Adams say, oh, Eric Adams is great. We're going to get someone who's worse. That's a great clip for them to watch and see who the real Eric Adams is. He wants to, how could he say that we need police, right? We need prosperity for public safety is equivalent to prosperity. But if we take the funding, we take some of these tools that equate to the necessary resources out there, it doesn't make any sense. How can we continue resources if we're taking the funding? So this is just completely gaslighting, which is typical of this administration under Eric Adams. And it's very typical Eric Adams. No surprise at all. No surprise. It's actually the first time I saw that clip, but absolutely no surprise.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, Hood Mayor says it here. Wow, he said no toys. Exactly. I think that's the bigger thing. So one, he says he did support the defund the police movement. He support moving the budget away. He didn't support removing resources, meaning manpower, headcount, but he said no toys. And now he's the biggest purchaser of police toys in any mayor ever. So what is this? You're right. It's classic Eric Adams. It's classic everything he said that he ran on. He did the exact opposite of. Oh, well, except for when it relates to, I gotta reel myself back in there, except when it relates to sanctuary city status, because he said under an Adams administration, New York City will remain a sanctuary city. Under the Adams administration, the police department will never be in a position to harm undocumented migrants. So he's actually helped, although he goes out in the media and he says something much different, he's done absolutely nothing other than run his mouth. Because that is his strategy. It's a political strategy. It's going to look like I'm working for you when in fact I'm not. But shout out to Eric Adams. His approval rating has shot up to 28%. 28% of New Yorkers feel as if he's doing a good job. Shocking though, almost over 50% of New Yorkers believe Kathy Holtz was doing a good job, which I was like flabbergasted. I think it was 55 or 52%. I was like, they think she's doing a good job. This is crazy. But 28% of New Yorkers feel like Eric Adams is doing a good job. So the overwhelming majority in New York City thinks that Eric Adams is horrible and he needs to go.
And I bet you 20% of those 28% are cops that are getting overtime. excited by Eric.
Yeah, 100%. They're people that work in the administration. He gave us a raise, though, bro. He's good for the job.
That's what guys are telling me. Like, oh, this is going to get worse. Eric Adams gave us a raise because you were out of contract for 6 years. Eventually, you had to get a raise. You think Eric Adams did something amazing for you? Come on. But listen, we're getting close to 2 hours. Like and subscribe that button. Smash it for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Newest Finance Trying to Filter podcast, friends and listeners. Hassan, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Hassan says this should be 5 or 6 hours. It goes too fast. You know, I really appreciate it. I don't know if my back can handle it for 5, 6 hours. But John, you got anything to add? I want to say, hey, listen, friends, listeners, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you, as always, for donations. Like and subscribe. Please don't be afraid to subscribe to this if you're active in a police department, especially if you're retired. I know for some people that are retired, you might have family members, but we have to stand up together, and don't be afraid to express your First Amendment. So, Johnny, you got anything to add, brother?
Yeah, just real quick, Prop 1, New York, make sure you vote no on Prop 1. That will remove parental rights. It will actually ensure a nanny state. Your children, doesn't say any age, you can never discriminate against them, so that you can never say that you can't get some type of operation or you can't get some type of medical intervention. The state will decide that for you, and you will remove your rights as a parent, your sacred right. Same thing is true in Florida for, I believe it's called Amendment 4 in Florida. Please vote no on that as well. I will be voting in Florida. I did remove my voter roll from New York City. I will be voting in Florida. I'll be voting no on Prop 4. I will also be voting no against everything, including, which is a shocker because I always said that the marijuana should be legal, but I'll be voting against that because I don't believe that it's been implemented correctly anywhere. And I don't believe the product that is coming out. When I was talking about that marijuana should be legal, I was talking about an organic product that grew from the ground, a plant that was natural and grew out in nature. I was not talking about this trash that's being chemically induced and GMO'd, grown in labs and all this other stuff that's causing people to have psychotic episodes. I was talking about a natural plant that grew on God's earth. So I will actually be voting no against that as well. I'll be voting no against every proposition and every amendment and every proposal, and we recommend you do the same. If you are not fully aware, if you have not read that amendment, do yourself a favor, vote no, because essentially the only thing you're doing is giving more power to the government. I think they have enough. They have enough laws on the books. You know, there was an article recently that came out about Rudy Giuliani when he said the feds need to get involved and there needs more laws to deal with Trendy or Agua. I don't agree with any of that. I'm sorry, it wasn't Rudy Giuliani, it was Ray Kelly. I don't agree with any of that. We have all the laws on the books. We don't need any more laws. We just need people to enforce them. We need prosecutors to prosecute them when people are arrested. So I don't think at this point in history we need to give government more and more laws. I think at this point we need to start saying, okay, you don't need that power. We don't need an incompetent, easily corruptible man like Eric Adams to be the end-all be-all for our lives and how we're going to live. So, yeah, I just wanted to end on that. Vote no Prop 1. Vote no Amendment 4 if you're in Florida.
Just want to let you know, I'm traveling by RV, but my home state is Florida. So I'll be voting by mail-in ballot, and I definitely will be voting. So, you know, if anybody's interested in the RV life, you can still do everything, and it's the best. It's free. You know, if you don't like your neighbor, just pick up and drive away. So anyway, listen, thank you so much for being with us. Check out our friend Tom Sullivan, true American patriot. Take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, 8:05 Live.
8:05 Live, baby. Vote Tom Sullivan. Tom Sullivan is the Republican, Conservative, and Common Sense Party candidate for New York State Assembly District 23. Tom is a financial professional who served simultaneously in the United States Army Reserve for 30 years and has now retired. His district covers Ozone Park, Lindenwold, Howard Beach, Broad Channel, and the Rockaway Peninsula.
Come November, I would empower our law enforcement agencies to go out there and do their job and not put them or their families or their pensions at risk for doing their jobs. We need drastic change in Albany so that we have a say in this matter, and they realize people of New York State will hold them accountable.
The Sullivan family has a legacy of service. Tom served for 30 years protecting and defending the rights of others. Come this November, he has earned your support. This advertisement's paid for by the Friends of Tom Sullivan.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community, but who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.